Guys, today's a big day. We've got the CBI Covert bumper for the 2023 Nissan Frontier. With that, I'm going to be installing a 30-inch diode dynamic light bar and a 12,000-pound Badlands Apex winch that I got from Harbor Freight. And it's going to be a pretty long install. I'm going to try to make the video as short as possible. There is a good or great install video that CBI put out, but just wanted to do it myself and just see what complications run into and maybe help you through. But first I'm going to start with the unpackaging of the bumper. So I've got a box of hardware. Like some bolts, nuts. These are some spacers that we'll use in between the frame and the bumper. These are going to be our light bar mounts. This is going to be our cruise control sensor relocation bracket. I did not get the bull bar for this, so these are going to be the plates that would go where you would attach your bull bar. Not doing that this time around, just going to install the plates. And then we just have the bumper itself. It's kind of bolted onto some of the pallet wood, so I'm just going to spend some time unbolting that and unpackaging the rest of this. What we do is remove the whole front bumper. So to do that, we need to remove a couple screws right here on the fender well. I need to do that on both sides. To remove those screws, we just need to pop out the fender, the wheel well just a little bit. There's just a couple of pegs in here. We don't want to go too far up. We just want to be able to eventually pop out the front bumper. Next, we're going to want to just remove the bottom skid plate. Next, we're going to take out these anchor points. They're held in by the brackets that hold in that bottom skid plate. So you just need to ratchet out. There's 2 bolts here and then 2 bolts on the other anchor point bracket. So I got the skid plate off, the 2 anchor points, and those brackets that hold the skid plate and also hold those anchor points in. Now we're going to remove these push pins here, these plastic pins. You just really need a flathead screwdriver to do that, and there are 6 of them. I have 4 screws that are just up under here. That'll get rid of this whole plate here, and that'll give you more room to work down here. But you can see there's one right there, and you're just gonna need a a hex star bit there. There's only 3 of those star bit screws. Then there are a few tabs underneath here that you'll need to release, and then that will make this plastic shelf easier to get out. Something I'm seeing on the 2023 Pro 4X that I have that I haven't seen on any others. I don't know if it's a year thing or a trim thing, but this black piece right here has these vents, and they have an actuator in the middle, and they move. So I don't know if this is an airflow thing. It's probably what it is an airflow thing. Not sure when they added it, if it's this year. On other CBI bumper install videos, people are just able to reach right in there and remove the front grille. I can't because this is in the way. I think to remove it, there's these two kind of connection points here, and there's a bolt here and a bolt here. I just removed the one over there, and it's getting pretty loose. So I'll remove this bolt and see if there's any other points to undo to get this movable airflow vent thing out of the way. All right, to get back here to undo these pins that are holding the front grille in, even to get this airflow thing out, the hood release is getting in the way, so I'm gonna unbolt it and take it out. All right, I was able to get this vent thing out, air diffuser. It's got a cable running here. It's zip tied all along here, and I'm not keen on cutting them just yet and messing up the way the wires run, so I may just leave it here. It's now a whole lot easier to get behind the grill and actually remove this front part. Also want to disconnect the camera cable at this point. All right, I got the grill out. It took a little longer because I got these Raptor style lights in there. I was able to get that air diffuser out. It just had one of those zip ties, but it was just riveted into the plastic, and so I was able to just undo it and take it out pretty easily. So I've got a nice clean workspace. That's the little rivet part. I've also just got these Harbor Freight lights down here, and that's just got all this cabling. So I'm gonna have to figure all that out, just rip it out, use these lights somewhere else. Now I think I have to get up underneath and take out that second skid plate, that black skid plate that you see when you're changing your oil. So next I need to unscrew some of the screws underneath that are holding the bumper to that black secondary skid plate that you see when you're changing your oil. Then there's some screws on the inside of this fender well on the bumper that need to come out. And then I should be able to take the front bumper off, just enough to even take the second skid plate off. All right, bumper's off. It was easy enough. I just came around here to the side, was able to pull it off. Make sure you unhook your fog lamps if you have them, fog lights. There's some pieces of styrofoam that are easy enough to get out. And then there was 3 to 4 pins, sorry, 3 pins right here. Just little tabs that you can get out with a screwdriver that you had to get out. Then there was one more of those tabs right below the lamp cord. So right here, there was another tab, and that's what I got hung up on. So they came out easily enough, but again, the bumper pulls off pretty easily. Make sure that you get make sure I mention this, there's a 10mm bolt connecting the bumper to here, and you access that by pulling the fender back, and there's an access point right here. So just make sure you get that 10mm bolt. Next, I'm going to remove the I'm going to remove the cruise control sensor, and then I'm going to get started on removing the bottom portion of the bumper from the upper portion of the bumper. Okay, breaker bar and second skid plate is out. Now I'm just going to remove these, and it looks like they just come out by removing a tab at the top. All right, this is the back side of the lower bumper. or I guess this is the bumper. So there's tabs all around here that you got to pull out. So really we just want to separate this bottom part from this part. I may not have these are lights I installed, so don't worry about these cords, and these bolts as well are all from that. And these two screws you may be able to see are from the front license plate bracket, and I've got a solution for that. So I'm just going to remove this and get to the next part. This is definitely the longest part of it. So I got the bottom part removed, and now I've taken this saw and I'm going around the edge, and I've already cut off that groove where the fasteners from the lower bumper went in. And now I'm taking a Dremel and I'm sanding it down. It is not the easiest thing. The Dremel and the saw are just like melting the plastic. Not melting the bumper, at least, just like the part that I need to come off. But it is just leaving behind a lot of like melted plastic, and so I'm just trying to make sure that wipes away and doesn't stick or damage the bumper. And then also I'm using like this little caulking tool just to kind of scrape the edges away. You know, it's plastic on plastic, so it's not really scratching paint off. And I'm just making sure that I'm doing that along the part of the truck that doesn't show. I'm afraid if I do scrape on the outside at all, it's going to leave some scratches. So I do just scrape along the bottom, and I'm just kind of peeling away that melted plastic that just kind of accumulates as I'm using the Dremel. I'm thinking after I get this trimmed up, it'll be time to attach the new bumper. Okay, we've got that bottom part all trimmed up. Not the prettiest trim job. Something to be mindful of is the fog lights have a little piece of plastic here that are riveted, and I actually cut those rivets, so I'm gonna have to figure something else to... Fog lights are secured in 3 points: the right side, the top, and then the left side. And that got cut while I was trimming, so you might be able to see that little piece of plastic right there. So very easy to cut if you're trimming this up. And you can kind of see there's a little gap. There's a little gap right there now because it's leaning in. So you might see it move, the fog light move when I move this. So not a huge deal, but I'm gonna work on securing that down. But next is gonna be time to put on the new bumper. If you got a Grizzly or a Yeti cooler, it might be the perfect height. So we're gonna actually use the same hardware bolts, or the same factory bolts, to bolt the bumper in here. And then it came with some spacers down here where the skid plate was mounted. On the CBI instructions, it doesn't have us mounting the factory skid plate brackets. I want the factory skid plate, that one, back under here, so I'm gonna put the brackets back on underneath. I'll show all that. But so there's gonna be 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there that hold also the skid plate. So 2 there, 2 there as well. So 8 bolts total to get this thing mounted into place. We've got the bumper attached and just barely started with the bolts. My plan was to put the winch and the light bar in once the bumper was on, but I can't fit that down in here, so I'm gonna have to remove this. There's 2 bolts here, 2 bolts back here, they're both 10mm, and also another 2 bolts right here. So where these 3 arms are, there's 2 10mm bolts on each one. All you have to do is take the nuts off. Bolts will stay put. Already got this one undone, so I'll take this off. That'll give me some more room to slip that winch and the light bar down in there. Okay, I have the winch in. Wasn't the easiest, you know, because this was in the way. I could have undone all these cords and pulled it out. Would have been easier, so I just slid it in. I mean, this kind of picks up enough. I can slide it in. However, there was a sensor back here. This sensor right here had this plate on it, and that plate was keeping the control box from going up against this from level, and so I couldn't bolt down the rear bolts of the winch. So I took this plate off, and it still had a bolt that connected it that was super long. So I took my cutter and I just cut the bolt probably in half, and then bolted the sensor back on. I have no idea what this sensor is. it will be well protected by the control box of the winch, so I'm not worried about that plate being gone. I've got the mechanical manual for the Frontier, so I'm going to look that up and just see what that is later. I'll tell you in the comments or the description. So winch is in. I've got my cables here that I still need to route, but I'm going to work on the light bar now. Okay, the light bar is in. Was not very easy. The brackets they sent, and in the video that CBI does, it looks like a diode dynamic 30-inch light bar like this one. So I don't know if something got cut wrong, but these holes did not go over enough to line up with this vertical slot here. So I had to drill and cut a space for these screws, these bolts, excuse me. Still need to be tightened up a little bit. I was looking to see, get that light out of your eyes. I was just looking to see how it lines up pretty well. So still got a few aesthetic things to do here. Obviously a few aesthetic things to do up here. Football is going on today, and I'm trying to do both things, so it's taking me a lot longer than I thought, but I think I can at least get some of this done this evening before calling it a day. All right, it's the next day. Just got a little too dark and started watching too much football in between things on here, and so things I did do was connect the light bar and the winch to the battery. Something that I looked up last night in the technical manual is found out what that sensor was that was down here that I had to cut that bolt off for, or shorten the bolt. That is the crash sensor. Where I relocated it, or excuse me, where I put it back where it was supposed to be, the winch was just really pressing on it. I don't know the sensitivity of it. It may not be a huge issue with the winch being there. You know, if somebody hits me hard enough, of course it'll hit the winch and the energy will pass through and hit that sensor. What I didn't want was, and deploy airbags, what I didn't want was for this to have so much force or pressure leaning up against the sensor that it was gonna, as soon as I hit maybe 20 miles an hour or something, that the airbags would deploy. I don't know, just made me nervous. I don't know if that'll happen, but just to make me feel easier while I'm driving, I relocated the sensor to here. There's a spare bolt here, so relocated it here with the cover. Makes me feel better being there. So I'm just going back through and reassembling the bumper. So got this on. It was pretty easy. What helped was to hold it in place, because I'm just by myself right now. I went ahead and put those 3 punches in, and that kind of held it there. And then I removed this one right here, and then wedged that in, got it into place, put it back, removed these 2, got it into place. Snapped in very easy, just putting pressure on where it needs to be snapped in. And so next I'm going to work on just getting the fenders back to where they need to be, and then I'm going to use the sensor relocation bracket they sent, redo up the grill, put that on. Okay, so I've got the cruise control sensor mounted on the new bracket. I just used the hardware that they sent. You're going to take out these 2 screws for the camera, place this right there, and then put the screws back in. All right, my last step to get this kind of back together is just put my skid plate on. I've got to put these plates on that they give. I'm not doing the bull bar this time around. And they've just got some aesthetic things. I've got some D-rings, and I've got my lead cover there. Also got a license plate contraption that I'm going to put on, and so I'll go do all that. I did have to cut a little bit of the fender liner just because it was sticking out down here below the new bumper, so just had to cut a little section off. Can't remember where I got this bracket, but so I've got my lead here for the winch, and then I got this, I think, from a Jeep 4x4 place, but it is a bracket for a front license plate. I have to have one here in Oregon, and so it's nice to have here, and then when I need the winch, I can just fold up the bracket, and then when I don't need it, can fold it down to show my license plate. So kind of have to have that, and that keeps me from having to drill a license plate bracket anywhere else. Okay, I've got these shackles here. Something I wanted to do to keep people from maybe stealing these is spent way too much money on a really nice product from Infinite Rule Securities. And so you've got a key and a lock to your shackle, and so you just have to unscrew or unlock it by just unscrewing it, and you can kind of see it loosens up. Then you can put the shackle on, and then you just do the opposite to lock it. So really like that, and it looks really sturdy. Very happy with that. Well, just like that, I'm done. Only took 2 days. Only just a few hours this morning. Probably about 4 hard hours yesterday, maybe 3. I was busy watching football, but it looks really nice. Just a few complications with trying to get the winch in there around that sensor, and the light bar brackets not lining up perfectly, but just with a few little modifications, I think it looks great. The last thing we gotta do is put my license plate on, and that you don't get to see. If this was helpful, please like, please subscribe, can't ask you enough, and comment if you have any suggestions, input, or just want to talk some trash. Any of it's welcome. Thanks a lot.